So a big week for bricks and just figured maybe we'd talk about it. So, what's the big first news? Obviously, Bricks 2.0 has dropped. And the crowd went, meh. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Here's the thing. I think we live in this world where we want something that blows our mind every other day. And the truth of the matter is, Bricks 2.0 doesn't blow anybody's mind. Not to say that it doesn't have some really kick ass features. It just didn't like reinvent anything. It kind of borrowed a bunch of stuff from Advanced Themer and a couple others, but it did have a few features that personally I think are the most kick ass that really I don't hear a lot of people talking about. So let's take a real fast look at just what all was involved. And I'm not going to get real deep. I'm going to kind of skim because there's a billion videos like this right now. So what we'll do is we'll head over to the alpha and I'll just go down it real quick here. Manager, okay, sure. I guess that's good. Honestly, I use about 6 elements on my sites, and everything else is, basically I use a lot of code elements if I want anything a bit more exciting. So I'll just put in the actual HTML. Now the builder UI revamped. I guess when you change some darknesses and stuff, you call it revamped. There are some things, I mean, the icon manager, the font manager, these two, all right, cool. SVG styles. That one, I can see why that one is important. I got to be honest, I use SVGs all the time. I've never really had a problem with breakpoints, so go figure. Now we get into where the good stuff lies. This here, bulk editing elements. How that wasn't the biggest news when these other features are kind of, I don't know. But I'm going to show that in a second. The unwrap, that kind of goes back to the bulk editing, I guess. Visual CSS grid builder. I've got Advanced Themer. If I really wanted that kind of visual helper, I've already had it for, I don't know, whenever the hell Maxime added that. It seems to me it was a pretty long time ago. So yeah, all right, I guess. And then the rest are kind of the pseudo class elements and where they've put it now. That I'm kind of concerned about. And the reason being, especially if you're an Advanced Themers user, that box is already starting to get a little crowded. And let me show you what I mean. So if I select an element here, now I've got my selectors here, and I guess that's better than having a button up here. I don't personally know if it is. I don't think that they've hit it yet actually very well. I think that, especially with hover and stuff, it's something that you need access to a lot or quite quickly. I don't know. I don't personally love it, but hey, these are my own personal opinions, just like butts, everybody's got one and nobody's is very good. So this is just what I think. I personally, I don't know. Now, the one change that I do see while I'm here, kind of a big thing, I guess, is the new revamped theme styles. If you're using a framework, this probably doesn't matter as much, although I don't know. I mean, it's always been there. They've cleaned it up a bit. I could see using it. I think it's pretty good, I suppose. Like, am I going to go in and set all my button defaults and stuff like that so I can just drop a button in? I doubt it. I think I'd rather just create a CSS class and let that be done. But I get the idea. So, like I say, the changes are pretty minimal, except, like I was saying earlier, about the biggest change, in my opinion. The number one feature that really makes 2.0 to me a huge jump forward is this right here. If I want to select, say, this one, the icon, and this button, and I want to drag these three and place them down in this block, boom, done. That's huge, and let's say I want to grab a chunk, I can click one, hold down shift, go to the bottom. Now I've clicked, got all of those, and I can whip down here Also, just by being able to select them, let's say I wanted to select these three and wrap it in a block, that's huge. That saves me so much time. Let me show you the old way of doing that. You would take your first element, you'd wrap it in a block, and then you'd sit there like an idiot dragging these things. That sucked. So it's cool that they added that. 2.0, yay. So the next topic, and one that totally took me by surprise, was Advanced Themer drops their own framework. I got to tell you, not for nothing. I happen to have know a fat ass that was on the forum, kind of prodding Maxime a month or so ago about saying, hey, just saying, just saying. So anyway, this to me is brilliant, and it makes Advanced Themer a bloody no-brainer. Please listen to me here. If you use bricks and you are more than just some weekend warrior that builds his little cat site, if you use this for business and you're not using Advanced Themer, go use Elementor, because you should be using Elementor if you're not using this. I mean, it's like having a race car and you decide not to put really good tires on it and kind of trick out the motor or something. Probably not the best analogy, but you get the idea. It gives you superpowers. That sounds familiar. Anyway, it does. It truly does. Now, I've been thinking about it and I've been like, damn, 149 a year. I don't know. Is that too much? I personally don't think so, but I could see how somebody who doesn't use it could think so. Now you're throwing in a framework. And, knowing Maxime and Alan's work, it is going to get a lot better. Right now, it's version 1. And do I love everything about it? No, no. That said, keep in mind, frameworks are being overworked, in my opinion, due to early videos from Kevin and whatnot, claiming, oh, look, ACSS does all this just magically, and you just throw on a utility class and blah, blah, blah. Don't use utility classes. They're not a good idea. They don't really help very much. In fact, very quickly, they harm more than they help. I'm not even going to get into the fact that there's recipes and all that. So utility classes truly have no use. But the important is just leverage your variables, have one source of truth. So as I was saying, $149 a year for something that just adds a few buttons, hard to explain for somebody that hasn't already used it. But when you include a framework and you compare it against either, core or ACSS, if you're still using that, it gets real hard, really, really hard to justify not switching. Even if there are issues, like I say, that I personally have. I don't love the naming convention, kind of things like that. Obviously, right now, there is no pop up. Sometimes Maxime feels a little like he doesn't like to be encouraged on certain ideas, and I don't know where he stands on building a pop-up. He might say, oh, it already comes up in the side panel. I personally don't like the side panel. I like the pop-up. Just give me access and get the hell out of my way. But I know this, no one busts his ass harder than Maxime does for his community. And if his community really wants the pop-ups, which again, I don't even know if this is an issue or not, but what I'm saying is very quickly, I believe this will be a very usable framework, and probably one that integrates so tightly that even I, who have purchased the Core LTD, likely will switch over. In fact, it was so good and it made so much sense to me that I pulled an all-nighter and got the Bricks Bits library to work with Advanced Themes framework, because people were telling me that, hey, we would like this. And no kidding, as soon as I released it, I had signups like crazy. So clearly people intend to use this. So this, I think, might have even overshadowed the 2.0 news this week. So anyway, this was a weird video. I realized I was trying to try out the new set, and I've got the good camera software thing now. So just wanted to release a video. It's Friday. I thought, screw it, let's do a week review. How are you doing? 13 minutes though. I'll edit it down to 10. Hopefully not too bad. Anyway, guys, I really hope you're enjoying the content. I realize it's been a little sporadic. I do have some really big things coming out. Hopefully, stay tuned. Like, subscribe, do all that crap. Call me a dumbass in the comments, whatever, man. The whole point is this: I'm gonna try and make content and educational content about being a better web developer, but I want to do so without screaming at you, without calling people dumb because they do things slightly different than I would envision it. That's the great thing about development. You get to develop the way you want to, not the way that I tell you to. I could show you, hey, this is the preferred way or whatever, but doesn't make you a chump because you want to go your own path. At the end of the day, somebody's got to pay your bills, and you have to justify the amount of time to the amount of income that you can generate from that. And I think that if we support each other and we have fun, that'll be a hell of a lot better than being divisive and segregating the small community that we have in Bricks. Anyway, have a great weekend. And if you have anything you want to say, drop me a line. I try and respond to everybody. All right. Peace.